Greetings, Captain. This is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster. Turns out I did not do any other Fast and the Furious movie reviews. For sure I did, but apparently I didn't. I just got back from the 8th one. It was a little better than the 7th one, but yeah, there were a few bumps along the way in the road, along the movies. I'm not going to go into the other films. It's a film franchise that pretty much is a video game like action adventure sort of thing with James Bond spy racers in it. It's basically sort of the Wild Bunch meets Grand Theft Auto meets James Bond, and it even has Jason Statham and The Rock and Vin Diesel in it, and a bunch of others. Yeah, yeah. This review is probably going to contain minor plot spoilers just because you can't tell the story without the plot spoilers. It's going to be pretty brief because they're all kind of similar. They usually do an action set piece where there's some exotic location to start out with. There's hot chicks everywhere. There's usually a race. Started out almost identically to the 7th one, but it was somewhere else, and there was a slightly different twist. There was, of course, a new villain played by Charlize Theron, who is chewing scenery through the whole movie and having a great time. Although it looked like the characters were generally having a great time doing this, and even playing the bad guy and all that stuff. Twisted juxtaposition where Statham's character and the Rock have to get out of prison. There's a scene where it's The Rock or Vin Diesel? Vin Diesel in prison. The Rock goes rogue in the movie, so they got to go figure out why he's gone rogue. That's in the trailer. Mark's Cards literally guessed this movie last night. He didn't see it, but he guessed what was going on last night, and he was like, "This is how it's gonna go. He's got something on him, the villain, and here's how it's gonna happen. And he's not really rogue. He's just pretending to be." And yeah, that's pretty much what happens. He didn't see. He just guessed that from the trailer. So yeah, there's a minor spoiler in there. Well, obviously, if you've seen the rest of the series at this point, part 8, you probably know that he's not going to go rogue. So that's a given. But and there's a computer hacker lady in it who has the ridiculous mad skills of like an Einstein or something. Uh, but yeah, there's also the other villains. I don't really want to spoil too much of it because it just came out. But it was enjoyable. It was dumb as dirt in parts, but it was enjoyable. It's the first one without the guy that died during making the last one, or right after making the last one. So they had to reshoot half of the footage. They just didn't include him in this one. They reference him at one point, but it's like in real life the actor died, so they couldn't recast him. They sort of recast him with his brother in the 7th one, which didn't really work because they didn't really look like. They sort of played with that with Statham's character in this version. They connected to some of the other movies, and they throw a MacGuffin in there in the form of the girl and some other thing, and I don't want to give away what's going on because then you would get mad. Anyway, so yeah, it's fun, it's silly. It's basically Grand Theft Auto. If they made a movie series, it would be this. It's probably what that game is thinking. That's been on for 16 years. They've been doing these. And yeah, so it was Grand Theft Auto New York, basically. Which, incidentally, is the rumored location of GTA 6. New York, not Los Angeles. So they go there. So this is it's not really connected to Rockstar's 6. But yeah, that's the rumor. It's New York, and there's also a London one in that one, and in this one too. So yeah, so they're doing stuff. They seem to have gone with Rockstar rumors and made this movie. It seems that they're cranking these out literally one after the other, and these two movies they were probably in production on this one, and the ink was drying. Ink was drying in the script when for part 8, when part 7 was halfway done. So they clearly wanted to immediately jump into part 8 and have just it'd be crazy. The interplay between the characters is fun. It is the coincidences are incredible, of course, as usual. Anyone getting hurt or injured or killed is, well, if the plot justifies it. Some people and some other people not. So yeah, I can't give away too much. Not going to give away too much, but that's the review. Go and see it while it's still in theaters, and it just came out. It'll probably make a lot of money. I watched 2 minutes of the Stone Gremlins review already and turned it off. I didn't want to get any spoilers. But they've already reviewed it, and so yeah, I haven't done the other ones, and I don't know why. So yeah, there's a lot of coincidences in the movie that in anything else other than a spy movie with race cars and like NOS and stuff like that wouldn't make sense at all. Like the bad guy's motivations or bad girl's motivations in this are ridiculous, and what happens in it to turn him is patently ridiculous because the character isn't really not really that way. So then he finally is. So yeah, you'd think he would just be, oh, I don't care that this other event is happening. I'm just a race car guy. Yeah. I like that it is a better portrayal of the original Kal Kat series in the 70s when I was a little kid. The Cars, Wars Adventures. It's totally that's literally what it is. And this one's the closest to it. It even has a submarine and nukes and stuff, which I probably would have thought of in the 80s if I'd done a update sequel. But no, they're not ripping off my story. It's just like they're kind of. I was thinking along the same lines. Yeah, at least with the earlier Fast and the Furious movies, they had like all these modern cars that weren't souped up hot rods because it was the early 2000s and everything had to be a compact car. So it was weird. But by the time they get to like 5, 6, and 7, and 8, they're just like, no, they have hot rods from the 70s and 80s. Even the 60s and 50s in this one. Because sure, well, why not? Because we have more money, so they spent it. Or they have more money, so they spent it. And they have an orange Lamborghini in it. They have cars skating on ice. But I guess if they had cars diving out of planes, they could have cars skating on ice. They could be skating everywhere. Yeah, and what's funny about these movies is like they have a scene where they do or they tap into the cars that have self-driving. This hacker is like ridiculously amazing. She just not a real thing that nobody can tap into those anyway, but she does, and she makes the driverless cars crash through New York. Of course, New York has relatively little traffic for New York. I mean, relatives that have been there, they've basically, and people I know that have been there said, no, you wouldn't be racing through town like that. You'd be stuck in traffic for like an hour. Kind of the same thing. It's that 24 principle from that action series 24 where you get to cross Los Angeles in an hour when you wouldn't be at all. So here's the same thing. We're going to race across New York and find the bad guy and go after them. And it's like, no, you'd still be in traffic 3 hours later and the bad guy would have left. But then there wouldn't be no movie. Well, yeah, they used 3 or 4 different cities for New York, including they like Quebec and Toronto, and they probably also green screen CG'd looks like Louisiana to make it look more like like a Russian base or something. So anyway, and then they went to other graphical things, but it wasn't couldn't quite place where they did the Russian base. So I'm thinking most of that was probably CG over like a salt flat or something, and they made it look like ice. I'm guessing because they're not going to dump them in actual frigid cold and almost kill them. So anyway, and there's explosions and bombs going off and stuff and bad guys and a ridiculous capture of a plane at one point. So instead of diving out of a plane, they send somebody to catch a plane literally. Yeah. So there's a bunch. There's a tank. All kinds of silly stuff, and it's like G.I. Joe meets James Bond. The classic G.I. Joe meets James Bond, also classic. Meets Grand Theft Auto, and in New York, and it could almost be a commercial for GTA 6. As I said earlier, yes, it will be New York and London. That's the word. I don't know whether the rumor is true or not. I'm just saying that's the word. It's not going to be Los Angeles for GTA 6. So the fans are saying, no, this is the new one. Oh, no, it's not. That's not it. No, it's New York and LA. New York and London. They're going to do like a spy thing. Yeah. If they ever do a Grand Theft Auto movie, well, they practically have with these ones, they should get these guys. I don't know who directed Part 8, and I'm not going to look it up, but it wasn't the same guy as the other one. So, anyway, there's my review without spoilers of Part 8. They had fun chewing scenery. Honestly, it was a good time, so it wasn't bad. And it's getting pretty good reviews, so yeah, it's passable. It's over 3 stars, I guess, but it's not great. It's probably 3 stars. It's not wonderful, but it's just silly, fun action movie with just ridiculous, muscly guys fighting bad guys and being anti-heroes, and the Statham scenes are funny, and Rock and Vin Diesel are funny. There's a funny scene involving, I guess, The Rock, since he was just in Moana. There's a Hawaiian scene that I won't spoil. There's a Hawaiian scene. Look for that in the movie. It's hilarious. But yes. So anyway, go and see. Hawaiian. Actually, no, it's not Hawaiian. It's sort of Hawaiian. It's Polynesian. It's actually a Maui thing. It's Maori. It's Australian Maori thing. That's what it is. It's funny. Anyway, so apparently somebody has seen the obscure movie. Well, I know that it's Moana, but someone has also seen the obscure movie Whale Rider and decided to do a Whale Rider scene in there, which is a Maori movie. Yeah, so that's cool. But anyway, so go to see Fate and the Furious, Fast and the Furious 8. It's still playing, and this is the end of the review. Oh yes, and Kal Kat. Before I go, Kal Kat will be at Comic-Con Silicon Valley, Part 2, penultimate 2nd edition. I was not at the one last year. On board for Part 2, and that's awesome. See, I got the tickets right here. The tickets. They're in there. So Comic-Con Valley and Comic-Con Silicon Valley, and Kal Kat will be there, but Narc's Cards will not. He couldn't wing it. I'm going to be there, and yeah, so I won't have a table or anything, but you'll see Kal Kat at the convention. I will be instead going to other people's tables and panels, and I will be going to see the Star Trek people that are all there. It's a Star Trek convention too, and you'll hear about Starship locations if there's anything new. Probably at this point, roughly a week away, you probably won't hear anything new, but we'll discuss it. Cool. And Starship Chimera has an update on the channel saying what's going on with that. It's been pushed back again because of time and schedule constraints and the computer thing. But that computer thing is resolved. We just have to get Mark's Cards to do the voice acting to finish up the film. So that's it. That's our review for Fate and the Furious. Yes, and the space cars. And another thing about the space car thing is the cars at battles, which was cars, people driving cars. That was a thing that I did when I was a little kid. So long before Disney Pixar ever did Tech-Run cars or cars, long before that, in the 70s and 80s. So that was a long, long time before Pixar did it. And I was also playing with Transformers long before Toy Story. But yes, And briefly, that Pixar theory that I watched on Moana. Here's a Moana rant. The guy was speculating on whether she's like a demigod in the movie or not. Yeah, she is. She's got to be, because then that would explain everything. The whole island is probably like powerful or something. So yeah. So yeah, because otherwise she couldn't talk to the volcano god lady at the end. She herself is actually another demigod. She may be actually more powerful than Maui, because Maui starts to listen to her. That'd be kind of insane. Anyway, so yeah, Fast to Fate and the Furious. Now, yes, Fate and the Furriest. I'm sure the furries have done that. They should do that. It should be like cats and dogs and animals driving cars really fast. That'd be awesome. There's your next Pixar movie, Fate and the Furriest. And the cats are hissing at each other. Excellent.